Finally, diplomatic ripples continue to follow Donald Trump's remarks about Nigeria. More than a week after the US president threatened to take military action over alleged persecution of Christians, his words are still reverberating across global policy circles. Nigeria's government has rejected the characterization as inaccurate and inflammatory, while US officials have sought to clarify that no such military plans are underway. Analysts warn that oversimplified narratives risk fueling tension in an already complex security landscape where extremism, poverty and regional inequality intersect. Now, to unpack the deeper implications for Nigeria-US relations, counter-terrorism and faith diplomacy, I was earlier joined by security analyst Temitope Olodo. Always a pleasure speaking with you on Channels Business Global. Because of your security expertise, unfortunately, we only usually speak when there's trouble, and there's potentially trouble on the horizon. It's been more than a week since we first heard Trump's inflammatory comments. From your perspective, how serious are these words, and do you think they pose a real security threat to Nigeria, not just in the north as well? The entirety of the country.
It does, and I'm worried. I'm worried because as a British citizen, as somebody that lives there,
dual national,
dual citizen, I'm worried because Britain is silent, France is silent. Those are the people that broke deals. You know, either you're talking about Ukraine or whatever, they're the ones that talk. But we know that for so many years, a lot of people have concerns about northern Nigeria and particularly persecution of Christians in northern Nigeria. Maybe I will not go as far as saying genocide.
I want to ask you that question, and I'm sorry to interject because we have just started the show, but it's important to, get your point on record. Is there a Christian genocide in Nigeria?
There's no doubt that...
is there a Christian genocide?
Christians have been persecuted, and...
Is that a yes or a no?
I'll say yes, from my experience.
Okay.
I was once slapped, I lived in Sokoto for many years. I was once slapped. I had a situation where I was scared for my life. When you live in that environment and you see and you feel it, you will know that you're being persecuted.
See and feel what?
The persecution, the alienation, the discrimination of Christians. Opportunities are limited.
Wow.
Even though you speak the language, once your name is different, once you dress differently,
You're being killed?
You could be killed.
Because genocide is different than getting a slap.
Let me tell you one thing. I will not stay in the north on holiday with my two eyes closed. Because if there's a riot...
You wouldn't do that anywhere around the country, Mr. Olodo. I know you. You're a very smart, secure man.
Yeah, but if you go to Lagos and there is a riot, you know that you could either join them or watch from your balcony. Okay. If you're in the north and you're a Christian, even your neighbors could push you out to be slaughtered. And we had incidents of that happening. And the problem we have is that our government is indifferent to the challenges.
Still now?
Even now, as we speak, some of them are in the air on their way to the UK to negotiate for the release of one of our politicians.
We spoke about that in part one of the show.
Instead of finding their way to the US. Why is our Attorney General not speaking to the Attorney General in the US?
Well, we don't know if those conversations are not happening behind the scenes. Surely there must be discussions. And I'm only bringing balance here. I'm not defending them at all because I know you understand more
The challenge is, I'm not seeing things that would demonstrate that we're taking actions. Yes, there were some little bombing here and there, targeting of terrorists, but believe you me, if there's an attack in Benue, it only takes less than 45 minutes for a jet to show sign of power from Abuja to Benue. It doesn't take 30 minutes. If normal flight takes about 45 minutes, what about a jet from Kaduna? Are you telling me it's not that close?
Let me follow up, because you've already opened a huge can of worms. But we know that this isn't the first time that religious persecution in Nigeria has been politicized internationally. To what extent are the narratives like these driving misinformation?
There's no doubt that there are some people that are using it for their own selfish ends. Politics will always come into it. But I think we are also shooting ourselves in the foot because the Vice President, for example, getting involved in the issue of Gaza, some people are seeing it as a narrative that might have...
Everybody's got an opinion on Gaza. How many times have we heard all benches in the Palace of Westminster speaking about Gaza? That's normal, isn't it?
I am a student of politics.
That's
I studied
right.
politics 30 years ago, and I know that Nigerian politics or Nigerian view of politics is being balanced. It's saying, oh yes, we're against what happened on October 7th, but at the same time we feel innocent Gazans should be protected.
So just for some context for our viewers, so when you're talking about the Vice President, you're talking about Senator Kashim Shettima speaking at the United Nations General Assembly, where he condemned pretty publicly Netanyahu and Israel. Do you think that was a mistake? I
think it was a mistake because it was imbalanced. There was nothing about release the hostages. There was nothing about, we know that this was a provoked incident, but not everybody should be, there shouldn't be a collective punishment.
Right.
There are languages that he could use.
It was quite provocative.
But the way he spoke and his composure shows that he really wanted to use that platform to send a message. And of course, it's been hard.
That's true, that's fair. So, beyond the rhetoric, what do you think this episode tells us about US-Nigeria relations? We was just speaking off air, and you were saying that you're pretty surprised that you don't seem to be seeing Nigeria doing anything when it comes to lobbying the Americans. We do have a lot of the spokespeople who've been appearing on TV, although I'm not sure many of those stations President Trump even watches. What does this say about the state? And what would you like to see happening over the next coming days? Because this is quite urgent, isn't it?
We have a 14 days window. That's my view.
Time's almost running out.
Time is running out, and politics is already having a role. If I'm President Tinubu, why is Obi and the rest who are opposition leaders not called in for a meeting? Just like we have in Cobra here, you have the Labour Party, you have the Democrats.
All hands on deck.
Come together and say, okay, what do we do? Of course, I will not support President Tinubu either going to the White House or anywhere or having a telephone conversation, because it will be quite embarrassing the way it will be spoken to, and I don't think I want that for my president. It's still my president, whichever way you look at it. And
Trump can be appeased. We saw Starmer do it. We saw Rutte do it. He can be appeased.
Yes. If they want to appease him, why not send the First Lady to go and speak to the First Lady to have a conversation? First Lady to First Lady. Let's use the other room tactics to have that engagement. Why not? We could do that. But the challenge we have is that they're saying one thing, but they're doing something else. So the rhetoric is not really having that, and they say, oh, we're all hands on deck. There are things that I would have loved to see. I could have said, call for a public inquiry in those areas where a lot of Christians feel persecuted.
Well, sadly, that's all we have time for today. But as always, do get in touch with your comments and suggestions. I'll see you at the same time next week for more in-depth business analysis on Channels Business Global. Goodbye.